I want to talk to you today about two things that may be dear to your heart: love and money. I want to talk to you today about how these two things interconnect. Welcome to my Love Economics class on why we should rethink the business of love. I know your preference could be leaning towards one versus the other. I totally get that, depending on where your emotional heart space lies. That's okay, and that's understandable. But I think we can agree that more times, often than not, that love and money are intertwined. What I want to help you guys achieve today is being a smarter consumer of love. This here is my amazing parents. They were married for 57 years. They were in true partnership with one another. However, the image, while you're seeing the still picture here, the image that plays as a movie in my mind and my heart is the incredible love legacy that they left behind. They were in true partnership with one another. I'm sure there were many times they could have easily exited their love investment, but they stayed vested, they stayed the course, and they pressed forward. And this left an incredible impression on me as a young woman growing up on the importance of building your love legacy. Today is a bit emotional for me because it marks the anniversary of my mom's passing. But I think she would be incredibly proud that I'm up here talking about love economics and how you guys too can build your love legacy. Because this was something that was really important to her and my father. I know you still may be sitting out there saying, okay, we're going to talk about love. What are you going to tell me that I don't already know? But I promise that you're going to walk away with a few things. This is the thing. Love is beautiful. And it's why we desire it. But the thing also is that love comes with some risks, right? Emotional ones and financial ones. And sometimes, because of those, we often may take a break from it. But the reality is, even though these things are happening, it's, I want you to know it's not just in your mind that is happening, but it kind of is in your mind. And science supports this. When scientists study love, there are things happening to you that create an emotional connection. For example, there are dopamine receptors going off in your brain, which is your pleasure center. You're also having oxytocin releases, which creates a love hormone or bonding or attachment. So sometimes when we're going down this journey of being in love, a lot of times we're like, why am I losing a sense of who I am? It's because you are really forming an attachment to someone. The feelings you're having are very real. So I know some of you still may be skeptical about love economics. And Elizabeth, how does this intertwine? How do the two things interconnect? And I get that. And some of you may be in situations where you're like, you know what? I'm in a relationship, or I'm married, and my love investment is just fine. Or maybe you've gone through a divorce, or you're in a period of being single, and that feels really good for you. And I think that's totally okay. But I think still, as we talk more, you'll learn and see how love economics does affect us, sometimes even voluntary or involuntarily. So this number right here was very astounding to me. $4.2 billion. If you had to guess the connection between this number and love economics, I wonder what thoughts you guys are having out there. This number, 4.2 billion, enough to jumpstart some economies, represents the cumulative amount of money that is spent in the online dating app industry globally. And this was a couple of years ago, so my guess is this number of 4.2 billion has increased. But what's more interesting to me about this number of $4.2 billion is that the number of relationships that result in long-lasting, committed relationships where people get married or they live together or they cohabitate, that number was less than 20%. What that was telling me is that people were willing to invest in the wrong love or connection versus not having any love or connection at all. So I started thinking, we know that when we connect to someone, there's an emotional connection, and sometimes that could give us a sense of love being a little bit blind, right? But what if there was a way to go through this process, being a more smarter, educated consumer? Would it help? And again, like I said, you may be sitting on different sides of the fence of this. Maybe you are single right now and you're good and you're like, I don't want to be in a relationship right now. I want to just take time for myself. Or maybe, again, you're married and you feel like your love investment is going pretty well. But I think regardless of the position you sit in, what you do want to achieve probably is, as you think through this process of being invested in your love, is if you do have a marriage, for example, that's going pretty well, that marriage stays happy and healthy. Or if you are going through a single period, but again, there's a time period where someone presents themselves to you, that you make the right, decision. And the reason that I'm passionate about this is that I've gone through my own journey as well, trying to figure out how to connect to the right person. And I was fortunate. I grew up with grandparents, aunts and uncles, and my parents who were in multi-decade marriages. They were married for periods between 40 to 60 years on average. So they were signaling to me that love could be long-lasting and it could be healthy and happy. As silly me, I thought by close proximity to these relationships that my own journey of connecting to the right love investment would be easy. It wasn't. I had a lot to learn. I remember just going through this period, what I call my dating dark ages. That's a whole nother TEDx talk, where I just wasn't making good decisions. And this is the thing. I had to go through a costly divorce where my daughter was involved, and that was really difficult. I had to make a decision to either stay vested or to divest from that relationship. And it was difficult because I was in a family where people did stay married. They didn't exit their relationships. And being a single parent and starting over felt like uncharted waters. And so that wasn't the only instance. There were more other poor love investments. I remember one particular situation where I thought I finally figured it out. And I was in this relationship. It was going really well. We both had invested a lot of time and effort and love in this relationship. And it didn't work out, and I felt devastated. I felt hopeless. And I remember laying in the bed, eyes cried out and puffy, just so sad, like, why can't I figure this out when it seemed like so many people around me have figured it out? So this is part of my commitment to you guys, is that I don't want anyone to go through the things I went through. I really don't want people to have to hit their head against the wall, metaphorically speaking, as they try to figure out, how do I connect to the right love investment? So I realized, in that moment, I remember my daughter coming into the room and saying, "Mom, what's wrong with you?" Because I was just so sad about this situation, and I felt so helpless. And that was my aha moment, that my daughter too was looking at my love legacy. So I know still there could be some skepticism around this, and I wanted to just highlight something else. So when you get to that period of figuring out if you, as you go through your period of being married, or you're making that investment to be married, I discovered some more statistics that were pretty interesting. It showed that, we've heard the terms that about 50% of the first marriages end, but actually that number has declined. It's gone down. It's about 41% now. And what that's telling me is that people are being a little more thoughtful and intentional around the process of marriage. But say you're after your first marriage, maybe you've gone through a divorce and you're reconsidering marrying again. What was interesting is when you looked at the second and third marriages, that number increased significantly of that relationship not working. In fact, less than 30% of marriages work when people get to the third marriage. So again, I started thinking, how can we optimize people's returns so that when they go through this process of deciding to invest in love, that it actually works? And the thing is, when you compare love, and you compare love to love economics, they are intertwined because there's a cost, right, financially, when people divorce, and emotionally, there's an impact there. So the thing is, love is beautiful, but it can be messy, just like a business. Because in its pure viral nature, love has a lot of characteristics that are similar to business. But I'm really passionate about people knowing the right tools and strategies to put into place, because when you do that, you can have better outcomes. So I want to take you through a couple of ways that you guys can become better and smarter consumers as it relates to love. Number one, think of it as an investment, because it is an investment in your love, your future, your family legacy. And think like an investor does. An investor, when they go into an investment, they conduct thorough research. They make sure that they understand that investment, right? So that it's sound. They're patient and observant in the process. So if you're in the beginning or preliminary stages of a relationship, similarly, using dating as a time of discovery and getting to know that person, seeing if they align with your core values, seeing what your risk tolerance is, similar to an investor, can you tolerate their idiosyncrasies, is super important. Number two, it's important that we know in a relationship there's going to be ebbs and flows in that relationship where things don't go the way they're supposed to. A smart investor does not allow their investment to totally have a downfall. What they do is they put things in place to safeguard and protect that investment. You can do the same thing in your relationship. What does that look like? There's power in recalibrating that relationship, learning to problem solve for things, and pivot when things don't go well. And I know that a lot of times there could be situations like an investment where it could be what's called a sunk investment, right? You poured everything into this investment, and no matter how you change or how you pivot or how you problem solve, that investment stays in the same place. It doesn't grow. It's the same with a relationship. Sometimes we have to make decisions to divest or exit outside of a relationship because no matter what we've done to rehabilitate that relationship, it's just not working. Would you stick with an investment that was doomed to fail? Finally, there's importance in nurturing your relationship. A lot of times, an investor, they'll say, hey, if you put so much money somewhere for so many years, it will grow. And that's absolutely true. It will grow. But a smart investor, again, knows that if they pay attention to what's happening around that investment, if they look for the ebbs and flows in that market that can enhance that investment and make adjustments along the way, that relationship has a better chance of success. And it's the same thing in a relationship. You have to nurture your relationship. You can't foolproof a relationship. I know people come to me all the time and say, is there a way I can make sure this relationship doesn't work? And that's just not realistic. But as my parents taught me, and my grandparents and the aunts and uncles that I observed who were in those multi-decade marriages, if you nurture your relationship, you help to mitigate some of the risks of that relationship not working. What does that look like? The things I observed in these multi-decade relationships were the following. There was a place of emotional safety. What that means is that you can show up for that person in an authentic and genuine way. You can be honest with them. It's a safe space. When you are expressing things to them, it doesn't come back around. It's not punitive, but it's used to make your relationship grow. And if you don't have those things in place, you can't have healthy communication, which is another tenet of a healthy relationship. And finally, we know in all relationships, there are going to be touchy topics. We're going to be triggered. That's just the reality of relationships and human interactions. The key is how you learn and grow from these moments of healthy friction, because there are opportunities to strengthen that love investment. And that's what I learned from my parents. I am still on this journey, but I was fortunate enough to meet my husband along the way. He's kind of handsome too, you guys. And I have to say that we are appreciating dividends in our relationship. Our love investment is growing. And we are realizing the power of using love economics to help us build a strong love legacy. Now, before I go, I have a homework assignment for you guys. I want you to think about someone who is important to you in your life. It could be a significant other. It could be a parent. It could be a child. It could be a friend. But I want you to take 5 minutes each day to invest time in having a heartfelt conversation with them, sharing a kind gesture, or a shared intimate moment. And I want you to watch how your love investment compounds. I hope that you found this class to be helpful on Love Economics 101 and why you should rethink the business of love. I'm rooting for you. I want you to be savvier consumers in hopes that you too can help to maximize your love investment. Thank you.